Mr. Alain Berset, Secretary General of the Council of Europe. Monsieur Alain Berset, Secrétaire général du Conseil de l'Europe.
Monsieur le
President of the European Court of Human Rights, Madam President of the Republic of Malta, President of the Parliamentary Assembly, judges, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. It is with some emotion that I join you here today at the court to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the European Convention on Human Rights. The European Convention on Human Rights is a fundamental text. It gives a clear idea of what the destiny of Europe is. The European Convention on Human Rights has been handed down from generation to generation. It's all here. It's all here. Now, our rights, our freedoms, our wounds as well, and our promises. The landmark decisions handed down by the court, and one very important one has been recalled to us by the President, the voices of the victims and the patience of the law. All of that right here in the palm of my hand. 75 years of European history boiled down to a few articles. A convention born out of ruins and drafted to prevent darkness from redescending. A convention that every day is enriched by the case law of the Strasbourg Court. It's a living and breathing text. It's a text that is growing as we are. It's a text that protects the weakest. It's a text that calls the powerful to account. It's a text that supports the work of courts. It inspires each and every one of us. This convention is our compass. It's Europe's democratic compass. And for as long as it remains part of our lives, then Europe will still be standing. But the world around us is changing. New borders are emerging, digital, environmental and geopolitical borders. Artificial intelligence is already shaping the choices we're making. Climate change is testing our most basic rights. And migration is driving home our humanity. The Convention, therefore, must embrace this century, as it did the last, not by turning inward, but by opening up to the future. And this evening, as I hold it in my hands, I don't see a piece of ancient history. What I see is a thread, a tenuous thread that runs from justice to freedom, that runs from our memory to the future. A tenuous thread that binds Europe to itself. And on the back of this little booklet, there's a reminder. All the Council of Europe member states have signed and ratified the Convention. All of them. There are no exceptions. They are all bound by the same duty to uphold human rights, democracy and the rule of law. And they must do so under the watchful eye of the European Court of Human Rights, which stands guard, supervising its interpretation and application. So yes, the Convention and the Court are sometimes a subject of debate, and that too is democracy. But the execution of the Court's judgments is a shared responsibility. It's a duty both to restore trust in justice and in the rule of law. And it's also imperative. It's imperative, that is, to preserve the credibility of the convention system, as well as the credibility of national institutions in Europe and beyond. And this is why ongoing dialogue with states is of paramount importance to the proper functioning of the system. So too is upholding the independence and impartiality of the court. the European Court of Human Rights. In its decisions, in the face of threats to justice, in the face of political excesses, and even in war. There's no need to remind you here of the role played by the court, the crucial role played by the court, in fact, and the Convention regarding Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. In each case, the court defends the rule of law and protects individual rights within the system of checks and balances that our states chose themselves to build together. But we must provide those within the system with the means to act. National authorities must have the independence and the capacity to apply the Convention. And the court and the Convention bodies must have the necessary resources to fulfil their mission. Upholding the Convention means reaffirming the democratic values it embodies, because there can be no human rights without democracy, and no democracy without the rule of law. Any deviation from these principles was deemed unthinkable, but today, yet again, they are under threat. Europe is investing heavily in defence, and democracy seems so fragile. Europe is rearming, but a society is left defenceless. Herein lies a paradox, and above all, the danger. Due to democratic backsliding, tomorrow an extremist group could take power in a heavily armed state. At whom would they point their weapons? In the name of which values? This is why we need to work together to create a new democratic pact for Europe, to put democracy back at the very heart of security, what we call democratic security. The work that we are carrying out on the pact reflects this common will. It is based on the Convention, that is the European Convention on Human Rights, and dialogue with the court remains one of its key drivers. A few days ago, a BBC journalist asked me the following question: what will become of the Convention in 75 years' time? Will it still exist? Well, I replied as follows: we should actually be asking ourselves whether we will still be worthy of the Convention. And I'd like now to think of the 14 Secretaries General that came before me and who have been the depositories of the Convention as provided for by the text, and they provided this continuity that's been so important. The European Convention on Human Rights is one of those rare texts that does not say what the world is, but what it could become. In the face of the upheavals of our times, we must keep it alive and vibrant. It is a guarantor of the balance between freedom and security. It's a guarantor between justice and responsibility. That is the legacy that we inherit. This is the role that we have received and that we need to play. Thank you very much indeed.